I'm going to get somebody else. Mic check. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, 1, 2, mic check, 1, 2. Ooh. All right, all right. Good afternoon, good afternoon. I like to do a check real quick to make sure who I have in the building. When I say people, you say power. People? Power! I gotta make sure I gotta do another check. Gotta do another check. When I say people, you say power. People? Power! People? Power! All right, I got my people with me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Derek Lewis. I am the field manager of the NAACP Youth and College Division. I'm joined here with other partner organizations. Mic check. Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check, 1, 2. A little bit more volume. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. There we go. I'm joined with partners, other partners in a coalition of other people, freedom fighters, advocates, truth tellers, organizers here as relates to the ruling of student debt from the Supreme Court. What we understand is that the student debt has struck down the HEROES Act as relates to relieving debt for borrowers and no standing when it comes to Brown versus the U.S. Department of Education. But, everybody say but, there is still a solution on the table. And our solution today is very clear, is that we are very clear about who our target and who our stakeholder is at this moment. Though this was struck down, and though the Supreme Court said there were no standing versus the Brown versus U.S. Department of Education, the avenue is still the Higher Education Act of 1965. And everybody say, and executive order. And this is really towards not only the Biden administration. So now what we believe in as a coalition is that the people who are closest to the pain should be the ones closest to the power. So now what you'll be hearing from is those people who are experiencing the pain and who are now influencing the power. First, I want to bring up to you Shayna Hayes. She's a 34-year-old student loan borrower whose student loan balance has ballooned to over $150,000. After a major life event, she struggled to navigate the student loan system, especially without the assistance of her loan servicer. After sharing her personal story and learning more about the issue, she became more an economic justice fellow at the Student Debt Crisis Center. Let's give it up and show some love for our sister Shayna.
Good morning, advocates, borrowers, policymakers, and new friends. My name is Shayna Hayes, and I stand before you today not only as an economic justice fellow with the Student Debt Crisis Center, but as a student loan borrower myself. My college journey began, like many first-generation millennials, with the uncertain ending to the endless question, what do you want to do when you grow up? And a family that saw higher education as the door to opportunities that they had only once dreamed of. My career journey as an educator has brought with it $130,000 of student loan debt that, as Derek mentioned earlier, is now over $150,000 due to continuously compounding interest over the last 11 years. The recent COVID-19 payment pauses presented a life raft for my wife and I. As like many others, we faced the uncertainty of careers and found ourselves having to live as a one-income household. Today, we are unfortunately in a similar scenario. As the role that brought us to the DMV was eliminated just 6 weeks after we sold our home and made the move here. We have been here before, only this time, the reality of our student loan payments restarting looms large. While I wish I was here celebrating a different decision with all of you today, I do know that progress does not come without adversity. I am disappointed, to say the least, in the Supreme Court's ruling, as policymakers have routinely affirmed the president's plan was within his constitutional power. As we move forward, we must continue to hold the administration accountable for their campaign promises and not let this decision deter the momentum of our movement. As I leave you today, I ask you to remember that the student debt crisis impacts our grandparents, parents, educators such as myself and our friends who are here from AFT, nurses, nonprofit leaders, children, and future generations. Here's to continuing to stand up for borrowers and demand that we end the student debt crisis. We must continue to be all in for student debt cancellation. As we continue this program today, I just want to remind everyone that there are millions of people hurting today due to a variety of SCOTUS decisions. So let's all be a little extra empathetic to our brothers and sisters that are here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Shayna. The story of student debt bars is real and it's necessary. I understand that we have agitated an agitator. In good fashion, we can also respond back, and we cannot at the same time. But you can repeat after me. Ain't no party like the party of the people, because the party of the people won't stop. Ain't no party like the party of the people, because the party of the people won't stop. Ain't no party like the party of the people, because the party of the people won't stop. One more time. Ain't no party like the party of the people, because the party of the people won't stop. Period. Next. Our next speaker is also a bar who is intimately familiar with the struggles that have come from our nation's severely broken student loan system. Her personal experience has fueled her fight to take on these systematic challenges. Next up, we have Melissa Byrne, the founder of We the 45 Million. Make some noise for Melissa, y'all.
Hello, everybody. Here's our key message for right now. Student loan relief is legal, and it is a promise from President Biden that there will be student loan relief. And just like the right wing never, ever, ever stops, we will never, ever, ever stop. President Biden must announce another form of student loan relief, cancellation, and the minimum is $10,000 and $20,000. The promise from last August, that's the floor. That is the floor of what is acceptable and what is promised. Tweaks to IDR, tweaks to this, tweaks to that. We're not here for tweaks. We're here for justice. We are here for dignity. And we are here for President Biden to keep his promise. We need a plan B. We need it now. We need our student loan relief. And then we need free public college. We cannot have a system where rich kids, they get all the benefits, and poor and working class and middle class kids get death sentences or no access to education. And that starts now. Today is the first day of the new phase of this fight. We will cancel student debt again. We will not return to repayment until that debt is canceled. President Biden, please keep your promise. Cancel student loan debt so that way 40 million borrowers and our families know that we have a place in this society. Thank you so much.
It's not about the promise, it's about the implementation. We've heard the promises. The promises have been stated since the 2020 election. We're now in 2023 and clearly asking for action. No more talks, no more promises, no more what sounds good, but now implementation. Next, coming up is our next speaker, the campaign director at Move On, where she works to enact, innovate, impactful, and people-centered campaigns. Let's give it up for Nakia Stevens.
Hi, y'all. Emphasis on the y'all. My name is Nakia, and I'm here on behalf of Move On, and because this is personal. To me and to millions of Move On members who have been passionately raising their voices for a decade to push for student loan relief. Millions of people who know they deserve a better life than what they've had under a mountain of crushing student debt. I remain in shock and awe of the lack of care and empathy people in power, particularly the corrupt right-wing members of the Supreme Court, hold for the rest of us. People on the internet, whom I would simply like to refer to as haters, tell you you should have planned better, that being a target of the predatory loan system was my choice, but like so many others, I did plan. I went to a small liberal arts college, the one from my list of 25 schools, yes, 25 colleges, don't judge me, that I applied to that gave me the most money. I got a great education, and I have loans as a result of it. I'm in the minority of borrowers that have found a great career that pays me well enough to help me pay my loans down in my lifetime. Unfortunately, many borrowers cannot say the same. They're suffocating under the predatory loan system and crushing debt, unable to move forward with their lives. Black women remain the most educated demographic in the United States, and that's not by accident. What the Twitter bots, Republicans, and other unnamed haters don't quite grasp is that we can't control the economy and we cannot control the past. Maybe in another life, in another universe, another timeline, I'm a carpenter, maybe I'm a farmer. But my ancestors and those of millions of other Black folks in this country have already contributed against their will in this lifetime to the economy for free, to slave owners for hundreds of years, the after effects of which we both can and cannot fathom. But maybe I'm confused. Maybe in this magical other timeline that Republicans exist in, Black women and women in general are paid the same amount as any white man. But in this timeline, we are not. Black women on average are paid just 64 cents for every dollar paid to white men in 2023. Let that sink in. So yeah, I don't think it's a little too outlandish for me to say, I would like some assistance with these loans. But despite all of my talk here, I still have a lot of hope that we can deliver for borrowers and working families across the country. We need every option at the table to ensure borrowers are protected from economic ruin, and we have different avenues to do that. Move On members will continue raising our voices to ensure borrowers gain access to the relief that they deserve. So today, I'm asking President Biden and his administration to ignore their haters. The same way I've ignored mine, they're mostly imaginary, and the same way I ignore Elon Musk, every Twitter bot, and every single Republican with the same busted talking points who fail their constituents over and over again. Look away from those people and look to us. Think of the tens of millions of us who need this. The same people whose votes you'll ask for next year. We're looking to you and looking to Congress to work for us, and we'll be ready to mobilize ourselves to vote Republicans out next November, so we can get to work expanding the Supreme Court to rebalance the right-wing agenda currently within it. And last but not least, 2024 is coming very, 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 very soon. Thank you.
Y'all show some more love for Nakia. If you didn't hear anything else Nakia said, is that one, our target is President Biden and his administration to move. Two, ignore the haters. Look towards the people who are behind us, who are providing us the solutions for the future so the next generation can thrive. Next, I have the honor of introducing Sabrina Kazes, the Managing Director at the Student Debt Crisis Center. Y'all show some love for Sabrina.
My name is Sabrina Calazans, and I'm the Managing Director at the Student Debt Crisis Center. We're a national organization with 2 million supporters nationwide, and we advocate on behalf of borrowers to get their stories out there and to make their voices and needs heard. The Supreme Court decisions have shown us time and time again their blatant disregard for the law, for our human rights, and for the American people. This decision is an attack. It's an attack on working class families and middle class families. It's an attack on people of color, women, especially Black women, single parents, and low-income folks. It's an attack on racial justice, gender equity, and mental health. It's an attack on everyday Americans. I've been thinking about the thousands of folks who have shared their stories with us, who have signed petitions, sent letters, sent emails, and who envisioned a better a future for their families. My family was set to receive $50,000 of cancellation in total, and today the Supreme Court took that away. Borrowers like Lanice, who reached out to me, who would have had almost all of her student debt canceled. She would have been able to move with her daughter. Borrowers like Sharanda, who was thinking of her future in retirement, and now she can no longer do so. I'm thinking of the folks who can't retire, who can't start a family, who can't buy a home or a car, who can't start a small business, and so many other dreams that feel out of reach because of student loan debt. And while this is not the outcome that we had hoped for, this does not signal the end of our fight to cancel student debt. We will keep fighting for borrowers and for each other because that's what we do. We're calling on President Biden to use any means necessary to cancel student debt because that's what he promised, and we will not give up on that fight. We cannot risk putting people into further economic harm any longer. Our fight is not over. It's time to cancel student debt and make education affordable, equitable, accessible, and it's time to end the student debt crisis. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. We didn't tell Wall Street to pay their bills. We didn't tell those who were in Congress who got the PPP loan to pay their bills. But now when we talk about educated people who went through American institutions, who are now assets to a society, and who is essentially moving the economy forward, now we want them to pay the, okay, I got you. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. When I say people, you say power. People. Hey, next I have the honor of introducing the man, the myth, the man himself, the legend, Mr. Wisdom Cole. Y'all break some noise for the National Director of the NAACP Youth and College Division.
When I say fired up, you say ready to work. Fired up? Ready to work. Fired up? Ready to work. Fired up? Ready to work. Y'all, it's a sad day in America today, okay? The court has acted against the American people. The American people has demanded for student debt relief, and the courts have acted against our interests. But let me tell you this, our fight is not over. Young people have been coming to D.C. for centuries now, advocating for economic relief. Over the last decade, young people have been coming, talking to their elected officials, talking to the president, talking to anybody who would listen, saying enough is enough, and that today is a great day to cancel student debt. And when they first came up here, they said, y'all crazy. That couldn't happen. But we live in a place in society today where an overwhelming majority of our elected leaders, of our young people on both sides of the aisle, are calling for student debt cancellation. Over the course of President Biden's campaign, one of the key re-election strategies he used was his promise to cancel student debt. And time again, we have seen elected leaders come into our communities, promising this, promising that. It is important for our elected leaders to follow through on those promises. We have a plan in place. It's time to implement it. So to all of my borrowers, to all of my advocates, I have your back. You got mine? Yeah. You got mine? Yeah. Look, we have work to do, and I promise you, it's not done until it's done. To President Biden, failure is not an option, and we are going to do everything within our power to ensure that we commit to canceling student debt. You have the power to do it. You have the legal authority. We know under the Higher Education Act that you can take away all of the barriers to higher education. Because at the end of the day, it's about equity for us all. It's about ensuring that we are putting people over profits. It's ensuring that we are caring for those who are most impacted by this decision. We are ensuring that young people, that black people have a future in America today and can enter into this economic system. This is an opportunity to see a new generation of homeowners, of business owners, but most importantly, it is an opportunity to reduce the racial wealth gap in America today. So we are going to continue fighting. Okay? When I say holla back, say I got your back. Holla back. I got your back. Holla back. I got your back. Holla back. I got your back. It is not done until it's done, and we're going to keep fighting. Immediately after this rally, we are marching over to the White House, demanding that President Biden do everything in his power to ensure that student debt cancellation happens. Thank you.
Fired up! Ready to work! Fired up! Ready to work! Fired up! Ready to work! Fired up! Ready to work!
That's the people. That's the people. Next, I have the honor of introducing the Director of Higher Education and Workforce Policy and Advocacy at Young Invincibles. This person is an experienced equity advocate, leveraging policy, partnerships, and research as levers for social change in higher education, and she's a black woman. Yep, she's a black woman. Let's make some noise for Sasha Taylor.
Listen, y'all, I cannot believe we are out here having to advocate for student debt cancellation and that it is legal and that still, thank you, and that it is legal and that it is just. And there are people here who do not understand that a woman like me who did not come from generational wealth, who grandparents did not have the opportunity to get an education, had no other option but to take out student loans to make sure that I could put food on my table. Do you know what that feels like? Do you know what that feels like? Do you know what it feels like to not know when you will have another meal? Do you know what it feels like to do not know if you will have the money to pay your rent? You do not. So don't sit here and tell us to pay your bills. I need money to pay my bills. I did not have the wealth during my college education to make sure me and mine were taken care of. The privilege it is for you to be here to tell somebody to pay their bills. The privilege it is for you to be here to yell at us. Whatever. Hey, y'all. It's good to be here today. It is so good to be here today with y'all. I am honored. I am Thatcher D. Taylor. Let me calm down because I'm yelling. And I am the Director of Higher Education and Workforce Policy at Young Invincibles. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Young Invincibles is a policy and advocacy organization fighting to improve the economic prospects of young adults. And today's decision is devastating. It is very devastating. I'm the oldest of 6, and all of my siblings who went to college would have had their debt wiped out if debt cancellation would have happened. And it will happen, let me be very clear. It will. And this shameful example of the Supreme Court choosing politics over people must stop. It cannot continue. The student debt crisis has exacerbated racial and economic inequality for far too long. Black households tend to have less wealth. A greater number have to borrow money. Did you hear that? A greater number have to borrow money to get a degree. And the amounts that they are borrowing are larger than those of their white counterparts. Black women carry the highest student loan debt burden of any racial and ethnic group. Yet the Supreme Court failed to uphold relief and is punishing borrowers in the process. President Biden and the Supreme Court need to listen to the millions of borrowers drowning in student loan debt and deliver on the promise of relief. Blocking the student debt relief plan will have a disastrous consequence, and 40 million borrowers will pay the price. The racial equity gap will go wider, young adults will continue to put off major milestones, and the economic security of borrowers is put on the line. This decision is devastating, but not the end of the road for debt cancellation. Please be very clear. We must continue to pursue and fix the unjust burden of the student debt on young people. And as I conclude, I say to you, in the words of one of the greatest creators of today, Andre 3000, if you did not know, now you know. Young Invincibles got something to say. Thank you.
Young Invincibles got something to say. The South got something to say. The people got something to say. And oh, my mama Talik got something to say too. So next I have the honor of introducing the internationally recognized young civil rights activist and movement strategist. He's a native of Lawrence, Virginia by way of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and a proud HBCU graduate of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Make some noise for Talik McMillan.
No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. I want to let you know that elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. An elite white majority behind me decided that after just 50 years yesterday of affirmative action is now saying that it's unconstitutional to even consider race, given the centuries of targeted racial exclusion and violence against black people in this country. And today, the court behind me decided that it was legal to allow businesses to discriminate against members of the LGBTQ community. The court behind me today also decided that they wanted to strike down student debt cancellation that would help close the racial wealth gap and give Americans the opportunity and a decision to create opportunity. What they did today and yesterday is not about opportunity, it's about oppression. What they did was not about opportunity, but about oppression. It's ludicrous to me, honestly, as we look at the justices, and we look at justices such as Clarence Thomas, who climbed all the way to the top from things such as affirmative action, to now sitting on that same bench as a black man in this country, to destroy the very thing that got him to where he is, as we talk about shutting down what the voters are demanding, from a woman's right to choose, to voting rights, to discriminatory practices, and recently, as I mentioned, student debt cancellation. Student loan cancellation is a matter of racial equity. It is about creating opportunity in this country. Student debt is a kind of bold policy that we expected the Biden administration to deliver on, and we still expect the Biden administration to deliver on. We fight every day for our pure existence. And the classroom is a major way that we fight that battle, and we see that here today in modern history and recent history. The people, my people, black people, have long been used as pawns in the sick game to push deep-rooted issues of a racial agenda of segregation and white supremacy and inequality right in front of our faces. You know, we say it all the time. Before, we dealt with Jim Crow, now we're dealing with James Crow Esquire. So it can't be confusing to me that it's not precise and with intention that they're doing this right in front of our faces. But I got news for the Supreme Court and the judicial branches throughout this nation. I got news for the legislative bodies across our nation pushing this type of rhetoric. I got news for whoever is in the White House, that my people were brought here by force and not by choice and by chattel slavery, and kept here to build a nation on our backs. And I'm telling you that we are not going nowhere, because the balance of our futures and the balance of our struggle is depending on it. Our diversity and our collective power together is standing on it. And I tell you that, you know, we have nothing to lose but our change. And we did not come here to talk about the cancellation. We didn't just come here to talk about it. We came here to demand it, because that's what the people deserve. The people deserve to be free from a society that presses them down in chains of economic insecurity and frustration. But our people demand a democracy in a country that allows them to grow and to fulfill their American dreams. And so I say today, no justice, no peace. there will be, if we don't get no justice, there will be no peace.
Thurgood Marshall was a freedom fighter, and he taught us how to fight. And we gon' fight all day and night until we get it right. What side are you on, my people? What side are we on? What side are we on, my people? What side are we on? We on the freedom side. Denise Ford was a freedom fighter, and we taught us how to fight. And we gon' fight all day and night until we get it right. What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? We on the freedom side. What side are we on, my people? What side are we on? We on the freedom side. Make some noise as I introduce one of Washingtonian's 500 most influential people, 2 years running. She is one of the country's leading voices on education equity, also a fierce advocate for employing evidence-based strategies to create high-achieving learning environments that turn barriers and gaps into bridges and pipelines for students of color and students from low-income backgrounds. Let's give it up for Denise Ford.
Look at all these beautiful people out here. Thank you so much for coming, everybody, and thank you all for being up here fighting for what's right. We need to cancel student debt now. Education is meant to be a pathway to a brighter future, a means to expand viewpoints and unlock opportunities. However, for far too many students, this bright promise is dimming. The crippling burden of $1.78 trillion in student loan debt, is an anchor on the American economy, but moreover, student debt is shackles to the ankles of Black borrowers, the population holding the largest debt burden and the population most negatively affected by student loans. We had hoped that the Supreme Court would recognize the urgency and importance of providing relief to those burdened by what many Black borrowers refer to as Jim Crow student loan system. But this court failed to uphold President Biden's necessary debt relief plan. This decision is not only disappointing, but a major setback in justice, fairness, and equality, the pillars of American democracy. To add insult to injury, this decision comes on the heels of the same court upending affirmative action in college admissions. Despite what some may believe, racial injustice and systemic racism still play a large role in American society. Black men and Black women bear the brunt of it. This misguided Supreme Court decision will hit Black borrowers particularly hard due to the widening wealth gap, persistent racial disparities in salaries and income, and other factors forcing Blacks to borrow more and increasing the struggles of repayment. This, coupled with the student debt payment pause ending, will likely result in default for many Black borrowers. We must call on our elected officials, nationally and locally, our education institutions, and public and private sector leaders to work together to address college affordability. We must increase the Pell Grant. We need to expand repayment options and ensure repayment counseling and services meet the needs of borrowers. The root causes of student debt must be addressed if we are to address and remedy the skyrocketing cost of higher ed. This includes investing in financial aid programs, expanding scholarship and grant opportunities, and advocating for legislation that caps tuition and fees, reducing the burden of student loans for future generations. Moreover, we must continue to push forward in advancing policies for immediate and substantial debt relief. Debt cancellation would not only provide economic relief to countless families and particularly remedy constraints for Black families in housing, starting families, or even buying cars. Student debt relief will also foster holistic economic growth and social progress. Together, we can build a future where education is a right and not a privilege. And together, we can make sure the brilliance of all individuals, regardless of background, can shine. Despite the Supreme Court's disappointing decision, we will continue to advocate for other equity-centered ways to cancel federal student debt. The progress of communities of color and low-income communities depend on it. Thank you, thank you, thank Thank you, everybody.
At this time, this is the end of our rally, but this is not the end of our fight. At this moment from now, we will depart from the Supreme Court and lead our organizers, our advocates, our truth tellers, the ones who will be the leaders of tomorrow, to the White House, again, to demand the Biden administration to cancel student debt. When I say cancel, you say student debt. Cancel? Student debt. Cancel? Student debt. When I say cancel, you say all of it. Cancel? All of it. Cancel? All of it. When I say fired up, you say ready to fight. Fired up? Ready to fight. Fired up? Ready to fight. Fired up? Ready to fight. All right. Appreciate y'all.
La música de Harry Ford.